Welcome to Straight from the Source with Haley Watson. Our guest today is Erin Resner, Mayor Pro Tem for the City of Reading.
Yeah.
Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so one of the things, we were just chit-chatting before we got going here, and one of the things we were talking about is just how much is covered by the Reading City Council, and there are so many things. When you first got into this, was there one specific thing that you were really passionate about? Or, I mean, like what made you willing to take it all on?
I think that I have always been extremely passionate about things that impact our community, mostly kid-focused. I had served for a long time in a handful of nonprofits and as a commissioner for the City of Reading in community services, being a young mom and a young married person. And wanting my children to be really proud of where they came from. That was essentially what motivated me to run originally. And so I think that my posture is always like, how does this best serve families in our community?
How many kids do you have?
We have 4. Okay. We have 3 boys and 1 girl, ranging from 4 to 16.
Okay, or I have a 15 and a now almost 19-year-old.
Yeah.
Teenagers are pretty crazy, huh?
I actually think that it's one of my most fun phases.
Yeah.
I think that you get to see these fun little glimpses of who they're going to be as adults and who they're going to be sitting around the Thanksgiving table at the age of 25.
Yeah.
And you can see that shift from being really parent-focused to them also being a companion.
Yeah.
Almost someone who is not a peer, but you can see like, oh, there is a friendship there.
Yes,
I'm
I was
not
going to say that friendship component just begins.
Yeah, just you can start to see a little glimpse of that.
Yeah.
And there are, my eldest is a wrestler, so there are a revolving doors of teenagers who are in and out of our house, and I just think they're so funny.
Yeah.
I think they're fun, and I think they're funny, and I like to have impact on who they're going to be as adults and who they are as young men in our communities.
Okay, so I have to ask you because, well, I'll make a confession. Sometimes I'll, do like the bad parent things. Like my 15-year-old really likes white monsters, and I kind of, we stopped at the grocery store on the way to work today, and when I was taking him to school, and I snuck one into his backpack and, made him smile. So I know you own some Dutch Bros, right?
I do.
How do you feel about your teenagers and caffeine?
Well, I have a caffeine habit, so I think that we attempt to make all of our decisions that are healthy decisions and in moderation.
Yes, okay. Caffeine can be really good for you cardiovascularly in moderation.
In moderation. I think that that's the thing that ultimately we've learned about health is that most things are okay enough in moderation.
Yes, definitely. What has it been like? I mean, everyone loves Dutch Bros. What has it been like being a small business owner? I mean, in competition with Starbucks, the big guys out there. It seems like our community really embraces specifically that coffee chain, actually.
Yeah, we have been in business for over 20 years in Shasta County, and it's been really, really rewarding because we have incredible staff. We have really, really incredible staff, and I think that that's the biggest blessing for us is being able to impact our community and make an impact on people's day, even in just like a small way, which is why I think that the community has embraced us in the way in which that they have.
Yeah.
But I think being a business owner in California can just be tough.
Right.
Being a business owner in California is more difficult than it is in other places. Keeping up with minimum wage, keeping up with the cost of delivering goods and services, those sort of things are just expensive, especially in California. And so navigating that and continuing to honor our employees and our customers is always something we have to be mindful of.
So I'm curious, as a Reading City Council member, are you more able to advocate for those issues, or is that something where like anything to do with small businesses you have to recuse yourself? Like how are you able to
I think the things that are the things that give the greatest sort of impact in how our business operates really do come down from the state. The ways I have authority or an impact on what it looks like to be a small business owner in general are the policy-making decisions that we make.
Yeah.
And so those are really generalized. So if I own a piece of property that touches a council decision that's being made, obviously I'm recusing from
Right.
that. But it's how can we create an environment, because that's really government's job. Our
Right.
job is to create an environment for business to operate successfully and then to stay out of it so that private entities can handle it best.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I know that there was a pretty big meeting last night, right, in Reading for Reading City Council, especially
We had a city council meeting last night, and we have one tonight that's a big finance one. Is that the one
Okay,
you're referring to?
maybe that's what I'm thinking
Okay.
of tonight. Yes. So we'll see what happens with that tonight. Is this where we're talking about with Tanessa Audette, one of the other city council members, had some ideas about how money was being spent or misspent? That's what's happening tonight?
That is what's happening tonight. I am really disappointed that we're continuing to spend time talking about something that is really a manufactured crisis. I have spent hours and hours and hours and hours reading through probably 400 pages worth of documents and reports, watching videos from the last handful of years. And my conclusion is that there really is zero corruption.
Okay.
And that councils made decisions that they were councils made decisions that we really have to answer for.
Okay.
So that's our job, to take the information that we have and to look at the financial landscape and to make the best decisions that we can.
Right.
Sometimes politicians do this thing where then later on, when they are embarrassed of a decision that they make, they attempt to blame on someone else.
Okay.
And so
It's human nature, right?
It is human nature. I think especially for people who have to answer for their decisions publicly, that can be a really uncomfortable sort of thing when most people get to answer for their poor decisions behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But I am really excited to be able to be done with this after today and to be able to start focusing on the things that are really impacting our community, like things like parolees being sent from the state to Shasta County. It still makes sense financially for the budgets that the state has put forward to rent hotel rooms. Financially, it makes sense, or to rent houses and then go to prisons and offer housing to parolees, and then they come and they sit in our hotels, and then in 6 months they are dumped on our streets. And so that's like a real issue affecting our actual community. They're violent criminals. We have pedophiles who are in the same hotels as children. Those are the things in which that I really want to be talking
That
about.
situation recently where there was a stabbing, I believe, right? It was like a motel or something. Was that a situation sort of like what you're referring to where these are out of town folks who have been released, but they're in this transitional situation?
So differently than AB 109, when someone would be convicted in Shasta County and then once they've served their time, they would be returned to Shasta County. This is a system that was set up by the state in which that parolees are allowed to choose where it is that they want to go.
Okay.
And so non-government organizations are going in and honestly soliciting those parolees to come here.
Yeah.
And the state pays them to house them for 6 months. They offer them services, and then if they don't have anywhere to go, then they are on our streets. And these are violent criminals, some of them pedophiles, some of them are housed in hotel rooms near children, near pools, those sort of things.
Did Reading get a say in it? Does Reading get money for this? And is there anything that can be done?
Those non-government organizations, those nonprofits receive funding from the state.
Okay.
And Shasta County is working in collaboration. The sheriff's office and the county officials and the city officials are all working on this because even speaking with the parole board doesn't seem to have a whole lot of say in where it is that these parolees are going. So that is something that we should be focusing on and advocating at the state to fix.
Right. But did you just say that there is some efforts being done, right, collaboratively between the county, the city,
law enforcement, that's those efforts, we've just started those efforts, and so that is where it is that we really should be focusing.
Okay. I mean, Can you tell me some of the names of these nonprofits?
That they're sort of in this stage of, there's one called No Boundaries,
Oh, I've heard of- yeah.
and the rest of them we're attempting to gather who is it who's doing
Yeah.
that work, who is it that owns those hotels,
Right.
and how do we find out what
Right.
the intention of their organization is and how that's working, because this is a newer program
Right.
that city and county officials were not familiar with prior
It's-
to what you were saying, the crime.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because I guess you think about it like balancing, it's a private business, right? So
Mm-hmm.
a owner of a hotel and they have license to operate, but their license is to operate as a hotel, right? So that's where you're...
They operate as a hotel and they rent hotel rooms
Right.
to a nonprofit who
Yeah.
runs the Proley housing.
Yeah. And at which case you would think it would be the city would have the ability to weigh in and say, hey, that's not what you have your license to operate for, not for parolees,
So
it's for guests.
we're attempting to figure out
Yeah.
how, what are all of the laws, what can we do, what are some ordinances that we can put in place, and gathering information, because it is something that's of grave concern to
Yeah.
our community.
Okay. So other things that are big issues in Reading, I know everybody's always talking about the riverfront plan, right?
Yeah.
What are you most excited about? I mean, do you have a certain vision about what you think could come next?
I'm really excited. That was one of the reasons. I'm really excited to be able to finish the riverfront specific plan. It has been multiple years in the making, as any good plan that is reviewed multiple times, and it includes stakeholder engagement and community engagement. That's how a plan should work. But the thing I think I'm excited about is that this gives Reading the opportunity to dream about what can our riverfront look like. I'm really excited and looking forward to the continued community engagement, because the community has spoken pretty clearly about the things that they want, where they want open space, where they want land, where they want walking paths and bike trails,
Yeah.
what they want the Civic to look like, where they want housing, or what they want the roads to look like. The community is weighing in on how many trees do we want, and
Yeah.
what do we want the sidewalks to look like.
Does the Civic Auditorium, because I've been to many concerts there, I mean, it's a great, big, high ceilings, good acoustics, the venue it has so many great things about it, but is it going to be for sure like torn down or revamped or something? Like, does something have to change with it?
Yeah, that's a great question. It also is a topic of conversation because of our financial landscape. Rural communities are really, really impacted anytime that there's inflation or a recession. We just
Yeah.
have a harder time navigating through those, a harder time than big cities do, and then we have a harder time rebounding or balancing back. And with a continued drop in sales tax, we have to make serious cuts. So any of those things that are assets or are luxuries and to our community that affect the quality of life in terms of, how nice is it to live here? Not necessarily only how safe is it to live here, but
Right.
assets like the Civic or like the rodeo grounds, those sort of things. Being able to financially support those, that's probably what you are referring to, is that without a financial shift, the
Right.
city doesn't have it within their budget to support public safety and support these amenities that
Yeah.
really make a quality of life in Reading really great. So I don't know that we're discussing tearing it down, but we are discussing shuttering the doors at the end of this year.
Wow. Okay. So that could happen where just basically it goes away, and that's just not it. And I mean, imagine like the ripple effect that has, right? Because so many artists and comedy shows that are going through the
Yeah.
area. It's right there off the 5. It's not far, and so that's a great economic boost
Yeah.
that we won't have anymore.
Yeah, it really does create this like vibrant scene for our
Yeah.
community. I think that anybody in the North State travels for music. People come from Chico, and people come from Red Bluff, and like you said, we're right off the 5, so it is this really easy hub that would impact our transient occupancy tax, because people coming in to watch a show and maybe they rent a hotel
Yeah.
room, and that impacts the general fund as well. Or they're going to a restaurant before they're going to
Right.
a show, or they're going to a restaurant after they went to a show. It really will impact our community, but we simply don't have the finances within the general fund at this time.
So if that sales tax passes, that would fund keeping the doors open.
A portion of that, the way that citizen-led tax is structured, a portion of that does go towards management of the Civic,
Okay.
Upkeep of the Civic.
And I know a lot of people, when it comes to like a voter-approved sales tax, their concern is, well, I like the idea of what they say it's going to pay for, but I just don't believe that the money's actually going to go to what they say it will. Do you feel pretty confident that it will be used the way that it's being laid out?
Yeah, I think that we all have this negative sort of taste in our mouth from state and federal government and taxes, and we are a conservative rural community, and we like to work hard and then keep the things that we worked hard for, right? We have seen, you see pork at the federal government and those sort of things, and rarely do we see a great impact to our local communities, but this is something that we have local control over.
Okay.
So unlike when we pay sales tax and it goes to the state and then they return it, this is money that we have control over.
Yeah.
That council would have control over, that there would be a body that was appointed as an oversight committee, making sure that that money was spent where it is, that those citizens outlined in the measure when they wrote it. I feel pretty confident. In that.
Yeah.
If I was a voter, I would be wanting and asking an oversight committee, for an oversight committee. That's, I think that those sort of things breed trust and they build transparency.
Right.
And I think the checks and balances are good.
Yeah.
And I do think that I'm hopeful that the community is engaged in a way in which that they can speak up for the things that, like we were discussing before, that matter to families.
Yeah.
Things that matter to families and roads and public safety and those sort of things. A portion of the tax goes towards the sheriff's office. And so those are the things, in my opinion, that really matter to us as a community, and they matter to me as an elected official. So we'll see. Historically, taxes haven't gone well in Shasta County, but we'll see what it is that taxpayers say.
Okay. So when it comes to public safety, for one thing, you mentioned the sheriff's office. What about the police department? How are things going at PD? Are their staffing levels pretty decent? Are they able to recruit and retain right now? Do you know?
I do think that they are having difficulty recruiting and retaining staff. We have been, we cut that budget through attrition. Essentially, we just didn't budget. As somebody is leaving, we're just not backfilling that position. We're still above levels that we were during the Great Recession. And I think that they're being really proactive and attempting to do everything that they possibly can.
Yeah.
Again, it is tough. Policing in California is difficult. But I think that sales tax would help them.
So I'm always curious about this, because that model that you just mentioned in terms of like, okay, so somebody retires or whatever and you just don't fill the position, we're seeing that across many different industries right now.
Right.
In my industry, they've been doing that sort of thing and replacing it with AI. Like a producer quits, and instead of hiring a new one, we have some sort of like non-generative thing that kind of writes news stories for you, that sort of stuff.
Right.
Or these cameras right now, instead of having a person move them, they are coded and they move themselves. Is that something that we could see implemented in law enforcement? Like, I know that they have, more drones, they have those flock cameras. Is that something Reading's done at all?
There are a couple of tools that they use in terms of efficiency for report writing. There are some fail-safes that are in there. There are, it's actually really interesting, there are specific errors that are made so that you can guarantee that an officer is going in and editing.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. City attorney was just explaining that to me the other day. But because in other AI forms, we're usually like, edit this, make sure it's grammatically correct.
Right.
But in this AI platform, they usually are using, there are edits
Yeah.
that they have to go in and make to make sure that it is done correctly and done by an officer. I know that our chief and the mayor just recently toured Vacaville
Okay.
Police Department, in which that they have a very modern policing station, and they're able to implement drone use and to follow suspects in that sort of way.
Right.
So I do know that we are attempting to figure out how do we do the most that we can do with the most limited amount
Right.
of funds.
I mean, it seems like no matter how you feel about it, like the world is changing, right? And there are these
Yeah.
things like, I mean, sometimes I think about it with my kids, right? And having a cell phone in their hands and they have access to everything, and now
Yeah.
ChatGPT, and I worry, like, are they going to learn to think for themselves?
It's a
But-
valid concern. That's a valid
Right.
concern, because studies show that their use of those things, their use of AI versus ability to think for themselves and to be creative, that those two things are linked. So yeah, like you
Yeah.
said, it's a balance.
So, like, what are your thoughts looking forward for the future of the city of Reading and implementing things like new technologies, including AI? Do you think that this is going to make Reading stronger and better, or that it's something to be concerned about?
I think that you have to balance those. I think that similar to parenting, where there is a balance or there are things in moderation, I think that you have to check your gut and check your mind and balance the data and the efficiency with those sort of safety measures and precautions, because
Yeah.
it is a slippery slope.
Yeah.
I don't want it to feel like a Minority Report sort of situation.
Right.
I don't want it to
Right.
feel like a movie, and I think that it's making sure that we're being very thoughtful of where does this lead and where are the best places that we can leverage that sort of efficiency
Yeah.
without it managing into that slippery slope.
Okay. So Reading's getting a Costco warehouse, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yes, that. But
Oh,
also,
ye-
I meant
yes,
to say
we have a new
Amazon.
Costco. Yes,
Amazon is
yes.
where I was going with this. So it's funny. I have, I always confess I hate the fact that I'm really reliant on Amazon. I work 12-hour days sometimes. You've got kids and things, and it's just like you just order it and it's there.
Right.
So I totally love that business model. But then I worry about small businesses, brick and mortars, right? Not being there when you need them. Do you think that having that Amazon warehouse coming to Reading, is that going to help the local economy, or the more we embrace that sort of model, I mean, are we going to see an end to brick and mortars?
I am excited about the job growth that it creates. Amazon was very clear during groundbreaking that it was not going to speed up our delivery, but that it was essential to their hub and their
Okay.
delivery system and structure. So I don't think that necessarily it is going to impact our brick and mortar stores any more than Amazon
Right, just in
does
general.
does
Yeah.
across the world. But I do think that it's really exciting for us in terms of just job creation.
Yeah.
I'm excited about the construction, and Amazon has been a great partner. We've been working on that for years. And so far I've seen in other communities it be a really positive impact to
Yeah.
their community. So I'm hopeful about that sort of thing. And the thing that I think is really great about our smaller, more rural communities, like you were talking about Dutch Bros, is that we're pretty loyal.
Yeah.
We are pretty loyal. So it may be I worked a 12-hour day and I need to order a Halloween costume and I don't have time to go at 8 p.m. to Spirit Halloween or to the store to go grab something to make a costume.
Right.
And that's my one thing I'm going to do. However, when I'm going to buy birthday gifts
Right.
that are for next week, or I'm buying anniversary gifts or those sort of things,
Yeah.
I do think that in our smaller communities we're loyal and we
Yeah.
support our brick and mortar stores.
Again, it's coming full circle here. It's all about balance, it seems
Yeah.
like, right? Like you got to strike the balance. It's a little of both.
Yeah, I think that most people live in that sensible space.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
So, okay, you mentioned jobs that it would bring and that being great. In terms of just like based on state and national levels, Reading's unemployment level, is that about standard? Like, is it tough to find a job in Reading?
I don't know that I think it's tough to find a job, probably. almost anywhere. The amount of access that we have to anything remote, Reading's a great spot to be if you want to work remote, or if you want to work in some sort of industry. There are always people who are hiring in terms of plumbing and electrical, and we have great programs at Shasta College and at the high schools. And so I do feel like that if you want to work, Reading is a great spot to be. Our community is hiring, our community is looking for workers, but it also is a great spot if you want to work remotely. You can get to San Francisco. We have lots of flights. We now have the Denver flight, which I'm really excited about. Hoping in the next couple of years we'll also have a flight to San Diego. But if you want to work, Reading's a great spot to be.
I think having that airport is so incredible, and I know Chico's working at it, but it's just tougher because Chico's closer to Sacramento.
Right.
So for people flying out of Reading, though, is it expensive? Like if versus driving to a bigger one, is it much more costly, or do you just save money because you're not driving, you're not paying for overnight parking?
Yeah, I feel like the cost of gas, also your time, then you're paying a daily parking rate, and that daily parking rate may be $10 a day, or it may be $25 a day, depending on which lot you chose. I find it to be really comparable. And I actually find it very convenient. That aspect of being able to take a 6 or 7 a.m. flight to San Francisco or to LA or to Seattle, I've actually found it to be really convenient.
What
and
a cool
it's
thing.
on time. It's been really great, I think, for our community.
And the Denver one, that's up and running now too, right? And I think the Reading Regional Airport just reopened yesterday after all the rehab work that they did.
And shockingly, a government project came in early and under budget. I'm not sure that that's ever happened.
Who was the contractor? You know it's the contractor who did a good job.
For sure. It was really, really impressive. A great coordination also with our Public Works Department. They repaved the parking lot at the same time, which is great because I think that a car could have probably fallen in a pothole in that prior to the repaving. We have a new parking system that is being implemented, and I'm excited about the things that are happening at the Reading Airport. And I do think that Denver flight's going to be a game changer. Prior to the airport closing for the rehab and extension there, we had the best quarter that we had in terms of being booked for flights. So we have great flights. People are using them. I think it's exciting when I'm flying and I happen to get on a flight and I know no one. Being in a small community, that feels shocking, and yet it happens all of the time. And so I think that it's really been a great service for the city of Reading and for our larger
community. It has
community.
the opposite effect too, right? Because we have people checking out Reading probably for the first time. And Reading's a cool place, like having Shasta Lake there and just all the wildlife and the nature. It's kind of has that college town vibe to a certain extent. I'm sure it's probably increased tourism.
I think that we've had great numbers for TOT, and we've had great exposure. Visit Reading, I think, is doing a fantastic job of advertising us to the world. But Reading is such a great and unique place. I just told someone last week that I feel like it has the potential to feel like a Jackson Hole sort of thing. When you get off of the airplane in Reading, there's a beautiful landscape. It really is magical. We have Lassen, and we have Shasta, and we have Shasta Lake, and we have great trails. And I just think if you're an outdoorsy person, we have great mountain biking trails. If you're an outdoorsy person, Shasta County is an incredible place to be.
What is your thing? Like in your free time, spare time, with the kids, the family, what do you love to do?
I love to travel, but I'm a little bit of an endurance event junkie.
Oh, okay.
So once a year, I either run a marathon or I do an event called 29029, which is essentially climbing the equivalent of the elevation of Everest. And so you climb one mountain over and over again. Last time I did Whistler. So you climb for roughly, I think that we climbed for like 32 hours
Wait,
straight.
so when you say climb, do you mean like hiking uphill? Or
like you hike all the way up the mountain,
so you're not rock
and
climbing.
then you no, I do not rock climb. I wish that I was tough.
Free
Yeah, free
climbing.
solo. Free solo
Oh
Resner.
man,
No.
still, that's incredible.
Yeah, you climb all the
Yeah.
way up the mountain, you take a gondola down. It
Okay.
sounds like I'm describing a walk, but imagine that you are
No,
climbing for 33
yeah.
hours. It's raining. It is exhausting.
I have a
Yeah.
confession, and I'm only 40, and twice now that I've gone with my family and a group of other people who I blame to Lassen National Park, and we tried
Yeah.
to get to the peak, and that's only 2 miles up. Never have I made it to the top.
Yeah.
First time it was bad weather, we almost got blown off. Second time we were with some friends who were huffing and puffing, but still, to my point,
Yeah.
climbing is hard.
Yeah, it would be essentially the equivalent of climbing Lassen 13 times.
Oh my gosh.
So you would
I
climb
love
all the
that,
way up,
though.
come down, and then go all the way back up, and you would do that back to back to back.
Okay,
So,
yeah. Is it sort of one of those things where it's you just love the kind of the reward of like, hey, I did something challenging and I feel good about pushing myself to do that?
yeah, I want my children to know that dad is not the only strong person in our household, and I like to show them examples of physical and mental strength.
Yeah.
There are points during any sort of endurance race, whether that's a marathon or whether that's a climbing event or that's a triathlon, in which that your body is just continuing to move, but it's honestly the emotional and mental strength of
Yeah.
a person to be able to push through hard things. And to continue to go even when things are hard, or it's raining, or it's freezing, or you have mud all over you, or you're exhausted, just overall worn out. And so I like to, one, do that for myself, and then two, I like to do that, especially, I have 3 boys. So
Yeah.
I think that this next year, my 16-year-old is going to do it with me
I was just
because he
gonna
thinks
ask.
I'm just taking a brisk walk.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I love that. And what a cool thing for you both to share together.
Yeah, he thinks
Yeah.
it's going to be a breeze, and I'm laughing inside. We're at the
Yeah.
stage where he's bigger than me and stronger than me,
Yes.
and he's like a man-child
But
now.
still, the endurance factor, you can.
Yeah.
I would say the first couple of hours he'll be golden, and
Absolutely.
then he's gonna realize,
Absolutely,
Yeah.
that his life is comfortable, and that mom is tough. Yes,
Yes.
that's the goal.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you: are you a member of the Bethel Church?
I'm not a member of Bethel Church. I sit on the Stirrings board. I sit
okay.
on the board for the Stirring, which is a local church that we've been at for about 15 years.
Oh, nice.
And so that's a very different board than
Yeah.
sitting on city council.
Right.
I also sit on the CASA board. I was a court-appointed special advocate for Youth Independency Court, advocating inside and outside of the courtroom for foster youth for a long time. And then I also sit on the board for the Children's Legacy Center and Arch Collaborative. So that's my...
I want to ask you about all
Yeah.
of these things. The reason I brought up Bethel
Yeah.
is an email that I've gotten from different people throughout the 9 years I've been here, is people just questioning whether or not that large church organization has a role like behind the scenes politically or like any influence over council members. Is that do you have any?
I think we get asked that all of
Yeah.
the time. And I think where that comes from is that, one, they're a large presence. I want to say they have somewhere between 8,000 and 10,000 members at their church. So that's roughly 10% of our population.
Right.
However, they also volunteer a lot. So when I sat on the Community Services Commission, their School of Ministry volunteered in our parks roughly 15,000 hours a year. For free, and so
Right.
that was labor that we weren't paying for. They also have made large contributions to things like the neighborhood policing units and those sort of things.
Right.
So I think that as an entity, they're extremely generous, and I think that they care. I think that as Christians, they feel called to service and to giving back to their community.
Yeah.
That's also one of the things that matter to me as a believer. Like, it is our duty to
Yeah.
give back and take care of our community. I started on council in 2018, and then before that was on a commission. I've never received a phone call from a member of Bethel leadership that said, this is how you should vote.
Right.
this is what I think that you should do. These are my opinions, and this is, how I'd like to weigh in.
Right.
I will tell you there are lots of other members and business owners who do regularly call and suggest how somebody on the council should vote.
Right.
I think that honestly, our community just has been really blessed by the Bethel community in their donations, and I think that. I think sometimes we just have questions about things we don't know about. You know?
For sure. Yeah. Interesting to hear that from you. Also, speaking of those people who do call in and try to wield their influence, whether it's the guy next door or a business owner, how do you handle that? Because I know that in the last few months or year, whatever it's been, it feels like people are getting just more and more upset and expecting more and more of us as a news organization. For you as a city leader, how do you take that on? Like even emotionally?
I think I'm going to go back to that balance piece and whether or not I have peace about my decision making and really listening to all feedback. So listening to all feedback, verifying all feedback, and then you can tell pretty quickly whether somebody is giving you some advice or opinion because it is self-serving or it is based in fact, or whether or not they've read a report or they have some sort of historical knowledge or maybe they have some sort of expertise. You learn that probably in the first 6 months, who it is who's just attempting to influence your decisions and who genuinely cares about our community.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I think that it's important that we take all of that feedback in and listen to it and then make decisions based on those wise counsel.
How do you handle it with social media? Like I know that there are sort of rules, right? Like if you were to have a Facebook page as a government official and someone says like mean things in the comment, you're supposed to leave it as long as it's not like
no, you have to.
hate speech, right?
Yes. I think you get used to it a little bit.
Yeah.
So when I first ran in 2018, the very first comment on a news article, there was a news clip that was on there, said, how does she expect to get elected looking like that? And I remember thinking, I'm not exactly sure what they mean by that. I'm going to take it as a compliment because I'm going to be a positive person. But that was sort of my first smack in the face of, oh, if you are a female who is elected, or if you're a female in the public eye, you're going to fall under scrutiny in a different sort of way. And so sometimes you become a little bit numb to it because there are repeat offenders who say the same comments all of the time. And then there are times when you're surprised by it. 2022 was a year that was shockingly cruel in comments, and I think you really start to see and witness the best and worst of humanity on social media, and I think that you have to be deeply rooted in your convictions and why you're doing the thing. Why you're doing the thing that you're doing. You have to know what your why is, because it's not for someone who can be easily pushed over. This sort of being in the public eye thing, as I'm sure that you have experienced, you have to have pretty thick skin.
Yeah. You've answered this already in a multitude of different ways, but kind of just as a summary here, for you, what is your why? You're putting in all this work and effort. We know that city council members don't do it for the money because it's so minimal for the time spent. Like, what is your why?
I really want my children to be proud of where they came from. So I grew up in Reading and I graduated from Foothill High School and I left for UC Santa Barbara. And I was really proud of where I came from. It's beautiful. The people are incredible. The people are generous in times of need. It's sunny. I loved where I was from. I loved growing up on the lake. I loved being outdoors. I loved riding horses and just doing all of the things that are great in Shasta County. And so I was really proud. And now raising a family in Shasta County, I really wanted my children, when they leave, when my son is looking at colleges, he's a junior, and so we just started doing that. I want him, when he's telling someone where he's from, to be proud of.
Yeah.
And so that's how I make those sort of decisions. Like, later on, will my children, when they are adults, be proud of the work that we put in, the decisions that we make? And
Right.
are we creating a better community for our children so that in 20 years they're still proud of where they came from?
Okay, I love
Yeah,
it. Erin,
yeah.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. Thanks for listening today. I decided to offer this podcast after enough of you let me know that you wanted a deeper dive into certain stories than you get on our TV broadcasts. We elect certain people to represent our voice, but who are they really? My hope is that this podcast answers that question. I love your feedback, and I want to know who you'd like to hear from next. Just fill out that comment section and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or Spotify.